Hey guys, Ash here coming at you today with Judo Sloth, the mobile gaming content creator of the year. Judo, my man, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It's been too long, my friend.
It certainly has. First of all, thanks for having me, Ash. It's great to catch up. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back in Clash of Clans, even if it's just for a tiny, tiny little segment.
Indeed, in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, why I'm suddenly playing Clash of Clans again. And towards the end of the video, I am going to just dissect all the info, all the intel and strats from Judo Sloth. And we'll talk a little bit about why as well. But first, man, I got to start with you. I'm not going to try not to suck up to the entire conversation, brother, but you are absolutely incredible. You're too humble to ever say these things out loud, but you're the largest Supercell content creator in the world. You routinely hit 1 million views per video. You upload frequently. Like sometimes we see massive views, but like once a month or once every other week because it takes so long to make content like that. But you upload all the time. And you're an OG in this space. You've been doing this for almost 9 years. I was actually pretty surprised. I was telling you this off air, Judah, but like, not to be all weird about it, but like I looked at you as like a little young buck coming up, you know, like this is like 6 or 7 years ago, but I didn't realize that, dude, we're almost the same. We've been almost uploading the same amount of time here on the channels, you know? So, brother, like, I want to start back a little bit, and before you were the most massive thing in all of gaming right now. How did this start, man? Like, how did you go? I'm gonna look at like some of your old videos on the channel. You know, how did you go from like pulling 1,000 views per video for years and years and years and years and years and years to now the biggest in Supercell? And are you surprised by it?
Wow, there's so much to unravel there. Yeah, I mean, I started, like you said, 8.5 years ago now. We I was only a couple of months behind you. I remember watching your videos as well because you used to post them on the Supercell forums like I did when we
Yeah,
first
dude, we
started.
were grinders, man, back in the day. Like
Yeah.
anywhere I could get any eyeball, I'm like, okay, you know. But yeah, man, yeah, old school.
Yeah, so I was very much a viewer of Clash of Clans content. I used to play during my master's degree, and I used to use it as downtime when I was in the library. So I always liked the idea of it. And once I graduated, they released Titan League, which I'm assuming if you have it on the screen for people to see, that they are my oldest videos because I decided I was going to do a trophy push back then. And I'd already made little videos for my clan mates, just, sharing tips for clan wars. And I really enjoyed it. And I quite liked the YouTube space. I felt like I wanted to give it a try as well, not knowing obviously the opportunities that it could provide, but just to, give it a go, have fun, share my knowledge with other people as well. And it just started with a trophy push, a couple of other guide videos. And like you said, they got very little views. And then for years, I was kind of at about 1,000 views. Some would pop off, some would
Yeah.
do less than that as well. But I guess, without going too much in depth in answer to your question, I think it was very much just a case of continuing to improve my craft as I was going along, continuing to enjoy it and not over expecting. And yeah, I think just that gradual process is something that people that are maybe starting nowadays have to just be realistic with their expectations because sometimes new creators could be a little bit hard on themselves. Just enjoying the process and understanding that, like with a university degree, it takes time.
Yeah. And you have that time and discipline. You know, you've always had that. And I don't mean this in any way to be any sort of like insult at all, but like you would back 8.5, 9 years ago. I think if you would ask me and a lot of people, maybe even yourself, or maybe you just knew all along, I don't know. But if you'd said who's going to be in 10 years the biggest, it's not even about the biggest. It's just about like the appeal, like just making the most engaging content out there, obviously to millions and millions and millions of people on a daily basis. I don't think many people would have said Judo Sloth, to be totally real with you, man. Like, and because you were very like very almost mercurial about the detail of the strategies, and you had that attention to detail. But that wasn't what was selling back then. It was like over the top, and a lot of those creators way back in like Noteworthy Games and Masterov and stuff, when I was coming up and you were coming up, they're not
Hmm.
even around really that much anymore. But it was high energy, all fun, and there wasn't like a big appetite for this. Do you think it was Clan Wars, competitive esports, all that stuff that helped you find that audience, or do you think it was more of a content kind of shift in strategy?
Yeah, I think it was totally a content shift. I remember watching all of those guys that you mentioned, and so many more.
Yeah.
But I feel for me, I got into YouTube because I've always been into competition. I competed in judo quite high level, and when I stopped doing sport, and also when I started, working as a physical therapist, and I wasn't competing or training as much in judo anymore, I needed something to fill that void, if you will. And Clash was where I was a little bit competitive in as well, shall we say. So that's where my content lay, helping people, giving strategy. But I think the main thing for me was much like yourself. I've heard you say this as well. When pros started getting access to content, when it was a lot more accessible, and suddenly the value I was bringing really wasn't comparable to what a pro could offer,
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, it was really being objective with my content and figuring out what I had to offer the world and going down that route. And I think that to me was a big content shift. Not that I wasn't getting growth back then with the strategy side of things, but I believe that that was the biggest shift in answer to your question. And a lot of the lessons I had learned through bringing that strategy content was clearly applicable to what I then started applying with content. And that was very much some of the stuff I was looking at with what is my strengths? What can I offer? So, yeah.
No, I love that answer, man. What you mentioned judo. How far did you get in judo, and what role does that have in your life?
Well, I think anyone that's competed in high level sport has a very similar approach to things in that you can be very disciplined, hardworking. You know what it takes to really, achieve things.
Yeah.
It's not always just physically as well. And this is the same in content creation. You have to be healthy in your mind, in your diet. And I'm not saying I do all of that stuff perfectly right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is for sure. But I think there's a lot more that goes into content in terms of balancing your lifestyle that maybe people don't realize. So I'd say there's that side of things. And then in terms of judo itself, I think from competing at a high level, it does bring you into those situations that are a bit more nerve wracking. Like being on camera is nerve wracking, and you have to be able to harness your nerves and actually use that. People still get nervous. It is what it is. Whenever I commentate any of the world championship events, I'd
Sure.
be lying if I didn't say I was
Yep.
nervous, but you just learn how to deal with that and actually bring it into a positive, if you will. I competed, I would say from when I was about 13, 14 is when I started becoming a lot more competitive. I'd done judo since when I was 6 year old. Um, I was on the national team as a junior, and then I got up to number 3 on the senior British team. And that's when I started getting a lot of injuries. I actually used to live in the States, not far from where you are, Ash.
I did not know
Um,
that. Interesting.
yeah,
What
in
state did you
in
live
Rhode
in?
Island, and well, I used to fly into Boston all the time. It was Rhode Island where I used to train, but I used
Wow.
to train in Boston a lot as well
Small
because
world,
Pedro's
man.
judo was there.
I had no idea.
So yeah, that's where Ronda Rousey, Kayla Harrison, Rick Horn, a lot of guys that went into Travis Stevens, a lot of guys that took Olympic
Wow.
medals and went into UFC, that sort of stuff. That was when I used to live there when we used to train with all those. So it
That
was
is
it was an
wild,
exciting
man.
time, great opportunities,
Well,
and I think you harness whatever you can from you bring your life skills into content.
I love that, man. I feel people, well, first of all, I know who I'm taking in the dark alley supercell fight, the duo fight I think that's the next event. They're flying us over to Helsinki. So I'm going Judo Sloth, man. Uh, but jokes aside, man, like first of all, that dedication, and you can just tell, man, like you can tell in I guess there's probably a lot of aspiring content creators out there watching, and I love your answer. We talked about this a little bit off air, but I loved your answer on another. I think it was with Daryl Eves interview. Basically, like a very candid response on how to get big on YouTube type thing. Everybody asks that of any successful content creator out there. How do you feel about it? Anybody out there who wants to change their lives, because you can absolutely change your life because you get to cover a game and games are fun, A, and B, you get paid a lot and actually generate some wealth for your family if you can do this right. But it takes a long time, as evidence both of us to some extent, right? Not to group myself into your success, but it's just a lot of grind, but it's also can be rewarding. But I want to go back to the question at hand. What advice would you give for up and coming content creators, or somebody who maybe hasn't made any content but thinks they could?
Well, I think there's two brackets of people there, right? Like there's people that haven't started making content, and then there's kind of new content creators.
Sure.
And I think the advice is very different for those people. And the people that haven't started making content, I feel a lot of times nowadays people overanalyze before they've even done anything. I've given advice to, many smaller creators, and a lot of the advice, you have to try and explain it to them in a way which is understandable to them, because back when I was in that position, I didn't know what I know now. And you have to try and explain things on a level that is actually going to be impactful. But a lot of the advice really is just make content, right? Because there's clearly a lot that goes into crafting a successful video, whether it's, from the ideation, the packaging, the story, just everything that goes into it. But a huge amount is you have to be able to deliver that content, whether it's your camera presence, your, articulation of what it is that you're doing. And that is something that is very hard to analyze and prepare beforehand. So you really do need those reps in. And I think many people will have heard, make 100 crappy videos and then, but it really is true in the sense that you have to be improving each time. But there are stuff that improve naturally, whether that is your camera presence or, when we were talking about nerves before, not everyone has life experiences that they can draw on in order to channel that. So you actually just need to be better on camera. Watch your videos back, listen to what you say, even, in the type of content you're doing. I know you're very well versed in this, Ash, but let's say a new content creator is bringing podcast or interview style content. You need to be able to look at what you're doing. Think about the questioning you were given. Was there something you could have followed up on and you didn't? These are all things that you need to be looking at. And I think for a brand new creator that's never created anything, you do want to analyze, don't get me wrong, but you absolutely need to just get the reps in, get going. Are you even going to like this? Right? Like that actually is a big thing. It's not for everybody. So until you get on camera and just make videos, you don't know whether you're going to enjoy the process, whether you can do it for 8-9 years, it's going to take you a long time before you perfect your craft. So for someone that's not started, it is a case of just starting. And I know that's really cliche, but it really is the advice of just make videos. For someone that's already started, I think you do have to follow that principle. And I think, much like what I said earlier, a lot of creators nowadays, I feel, want instant growth. And that's fine. Like, you can have goals and you can have aspirations to do that. But you also have to be realistic with yourself. Otherwise, you're constantly going to be just banging your head against a wall, right? There's a reason that people who have been making content for years and years can get videos to explode more rapidly than someone that's been doing it 2 months. The comparison is just totally different. So I think just being real with yourself and setting your own goals and expectations is something that you need to work towards, and don't expect things to happen overnight, because, like I said, it can just be disheartening for people, and you want to enjoy you have to enjoy the process, because
100%.
there are times where it's not easy and you have to be able to work through that. And if you're not enjoying it, it's very tricky to do. And it is also the case that everyone says it, but your viewers, maybe not for one video or two, but over time, as you're building a community, if you're not enjoying it, they'll be able to see whether it's the type of videos you're bringing or just moments in the video. Like you can't fake that excitement and stuff. So I
100%
guess
agree.
like just being
Yeah.
put on the spot, like that's the advice I
No,
would give
that's
for new creators.
no, that's fantastic advice, and you got me psychoanalyzing myself about asking follow-up questions. I'm like, oh God, what do I ask for a follow-up?
Sorry.
But no, I'm just kidding, man. But no, I think that's it's fantastic advice, and really, it does apply to almost anything in life too. You know,
Yeah.
to some extent, and that's where I love the translation again, going back to the judo and how that gave you some discipline and how you kind of carried some of those learnings over to being a content creator. And it just reminds me of anybody that you see who really excels at their craft. It's not rocket science, but they make it their life. I'm not saying ignore everything else that matters in life. I'm just saying that it takes dedication. It takes a lot of time. You know, I think a lot of people look for instant results, or even after a year or two are like, okay, it's too long. Like I'm out. You know, but both of us, you and I, we both took several years to get any
Yeah.
track to make any income, you know, meaningful income or anything like that, you know. So,
Can you remember how long it took you to get 1,000 subs?
no, but I do.
I think it took me about 150 videos,
Yeah,
around about that mark. It was well over 100. Just
that's
for perspective for
it.
people.
Doesn't even surprise me. I'm sure some viewers it might, but like, I remember after 7 months recording a 500 subscriber special. So that was but the thing about it is I go back and watch that and it's the crappiest, the worst video ever. I think if I could
It
maybe
should
even
be.
find it. But like my thumbnails are so bad, it's unbelievable. In the beginning too is really bad. But
if you don't look back and look at your content and think, why didn't I do this? So even my 1 million sub special, right? Like at the time I put so much work into it. I was so proud of it. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this or that? And if you're not looking back on your content like that, then you haven't grown, you know? So
yeah.
it doesn't matter where you are as a creator, you should always be improving. Even myself, you know, looking back on content, if you're not looking back and thinking, I could have done better there or this, or, you know, then you're stagnant and you're not improving. And that's not a position to be in.
No, 100%. And like, it's crazy, man. After a certain amount of time doing this, it becomes part of your life. Like, you know, because we both started when we were not dads. We're dads now. You know, we have, there's so much has changed for both of us, you know. But I look back, I'm watching the 500 subscriber special in the background, just so I see how low budget it was. This is back to like when we started again, like, I know I sound like an old dinosaur again, back-to-back videos, because I did this with Molt too, but like, it was hard to access a lot of these tools that are available now to actually record.
Sure.
You know, I didn't have a high quality camera, anything like that. And it was tough to even get something from a camera to a PC back then, you know? So anyway, I say all that to say that in the 500 subscriber special though, and I'm sure this resonates with you too, is like, I really meant it. It wasn't a joke. It was like, I can't believe I got 500 subscribers. Thank you so much. And I think that like, not to, you know, pat myself on the back or anything like that, but you're the same way. I think that like just being happy with having like people spend time watching your videos, even if it's only a few of them, that's a lot. Like it's an intimate thing to like go into somebody's life and just start talking to them, you know, and having them, seeing as how valuable time is, decide to spend time with you, you know?
I think that's the thing is people often look at, you know, well, my content's free, but it's not. Your content has the most valuable resource in time. Why should someone spend their time with you? And looking at numbers, you know, it is always humbling to see how many people watch your content. And those numbers are people. Just remembering that. And just to put it into perspective, let's say you get 100 views, right? My little boy turned 3 not too long ago, and we had a house party, and I'm from England. It rains all of the time. So it's in the summer, right? But it rained. So my house was packed. And I want to say there was 60 people there. And you could not get moved. You know, just think about 100 people in your house. That's how many people have watched your content. If it is 100 views, like you're saying, just trying to put things into perspective like that.
So true.
Is, you know, is massive and can help you as a small creator when you're looking at all these big numbers and you're trying to compare and just working on your own thing. It's very hard not to, right? Like, I don't want to give off the impression that it's easy to just, you know, ignore everything else that's going on and focus on your own content. But you really do have to try and look at your own growth and how your trajectory works. Because like you said, there was a lot of years where I was not even known in the Clash of Clans space, really. Um, so you
Yeah.
just have to focus on your own growth. And if you really do love what you do and you are putting the work in to improve, you will get there.
Absolutely, man. A great lesson. And even for you, like perspective on views, it can still boggle the mind, right? I mean, especially for now for
Sure.
you. I mean, you I don't know what the equivalent in the UK would be, like the Premier League Championship, but like the Super Bowl here, but like that many eyeballs are watching you, and that's insane. That's insane. But shifting a little bit here, I wanted to ask you, you won Mobile Content Creator of the Year. Congratulations for that. You were live, I believe. Was that in Vegas or am I making that up?
Uh, it was in Los Angeles. The
Los
Esports
Angeles. Okay.
Awards is in Las
Got you.
Vegas.
Got you. So, congratulations again on that. I wanted to ask you, uh, what's left for you, Judo? What's left for you? Are you going to stick with Clash of Clans? You're already the biggest in winning awards, the best mobile gaming creator in the entire world. What do you have any goals? Or are you just kind of enjoying the ride, like, or somewhere in the middle?
I think all of the, like the awards and things are nice. Don't get me wrong. It's very humbling, especially for me to get Clash of Clans up on the stage with all of the, Clash of Clans is not the limelight nowadays in mobile gaming. So to see all of the representation there and show how much love and support there is for the game still, it was just so humbling and just incredible. But for me personally and my goals, I like ultimately high level, I want to inspire people, bring joy to their lives, and that's what I hope my content brings. And in terms of like Clash specifically, I want to make the best Clash of Clans content that there has ever been. And I want to break records despite the game being, 11 year
11 years
old
old.
and
Yeah.
not being as popular as it once was. I want to break records in that this is the most views a video has ever got. This is the most, because people enjoy it that much. And that's what I aim to bring with the videos. I've had a lot of people in recent years ask, why don't you cover a more popular game or this or that? And it's simple. Clash is where my passion lies with content. And if you're not bringing your best content, then you can't expect to grow to your maximum potential. So if I were to cover a more popular game, but that I didn't enjoy as much, then I couldn't expect to bring my best content and therefore, bring joy to people's lives through the videos. So yeah.
I love that, man. I love that answer, and it's so genuine, just like you are. I feel like I've always felt this about you, but I feel like you're genuinely motivated by the game, the community, and what you just said. Like bringing joy and stress, a little strategy involved as well, and to people's lives, and just be useful and be time well spent when they're watching your videos. So I absolutely love that, and you've obviously achieved that. So cheers to another in 10 years. It's a good segue into Clash of Clans in general, right? It's been around for 11 years. And the cool thing is even though you said like in LA you bring Clash of Clans to the big stage, I feel like at this point, if somebody's played a mobile game at one point in their life, they've probably acquainted with Clash of Clans. Like I feel like I think you can even go to like my raid audience or something and mention Clash of Clans, and everybody knows, everybody played it.
Mm.
So what is it about Clash of Clans that gives us this staying power? I don't see it going anywhere either. Uh, yeah, just comment on that. I have a follow up too, but like, why Clash of Clans?
Well, I think it was obviously, like you said, it was very big and people get attached to their village, to the progression, right? And whether you have not played the game in a number of years, you can come back and yes, there's a lot of content, but you can still feel like you just pick up where you left off. And it feels so familiar to people. That's where with my content, I try and bring content that not only appeals to people that play Clash now, but people that used to play Clash, maybe bring them back. Anyone that's interested in Clash that might get that nostalgia feeling from watching any of the
Love
videos.
that.
But kind of back to Clash of Clans itself, I, I guess I'm very subjective on this, right? Like there's going to be a level of bias from me because I'm so invested in the game and
Yeah,
I enjoy it. But I really just think it's such a widely appealing game to so many different people. If you want to get deep into the strategy side of things, the pro scene is, fantastic in Clash of Clans. If you just want to farm, get some resources, upgrade your building, upgrade your village, you can do that. Everdale was built because there was a huge amount of people seen in Clash of Clans that didn't even attack. They just liked collecting loot and then upgrading their village. And that's where the idea of Everdale came from, right? So it's just so widely appealing because you can play it however you wish. And now with Builder Base and Clan Capital, people can enjoy the game however they want. And I think that's always something to keep in mind, that there's no one right way to play Clash. You can play it however you wish, as long as you're enjoying the game. That's the main thing. And I always try and bring that with my content as well. There's always subsets of people that, feel like the game should go in this direction, or maybe we should bring this feature. But it's always trying to please everyone. I think is very tricky for the developers. But yeah.
I'm sure. And you know what, man? Like I think it's a good segue into kind of covering a game like this with so many different ways to play it, and so many different of those people existing in your audience as well. Do you find it challenging to talk to everybody at once? And everybody's, just like any game community, there's a lot of people unhappy all the time, I imagine, right? About X, Y, or Z or something, Not saying that it's not deserved or whatever, but how do you feel like Clash of Clans, like Supercell, has gone about growing with the game over the years? Obviously, back in my day, there was Town Hall 10, and that's it. Town Hall 11 was a big deal when this release in 2015 or whatever. And now it's just like, I'm Town Hall 12. I was just logging in today. And by the way, it never gets old finding a great dead base, Judo, does it, man? You can quit for 7 years and come back and be like, oh, 2 million loot. My lucky day.
Back in my day, the loot wasn't that. It was 200,000 and you were over the moon.
And you know what I did, dude? I did the lame thing where I screenshotted the loot. I'm not even going to show it to anybody. I was like, oh, maybe I'll post this later. This is a haul. But anyway, are you happy with the direction that they've been moving the game? Like, what is your honest stance on where it is right now and how they've kind of grown over the years?
I feel the team is in a really good spot right now. They are very passionate about improving the game, despite it being 11 years. And, they have members that come and go. And I think that's important as well, to always get fresh perspectives. In my opinion, from pretty much when you left, Ash, there was a period where Town Hall 11 was the highest level. And my feeling is that they didn't want to break the balance of the game.
Yeah.
They were maybe worried about new Town Hall levels, new troops spoiling, the meta that they had. And I feel like the team is in a much better place in taking risks and actually just progressing the game forward.
Love that.
Is the game perfect? Are they always making the right decision? That's really hard to say. Obviously, probably not. From my perspective, there's definitely some things they could do better. But as a whole holistic view, I think they're in a really good place. And you can see that with the rapid release of updates. You think about in between, like I was just saying, Town Hall 11 and 12.
Right. Yeah.
We had like years before there was a new Town Hall.
Maybe one
and
troop,
now, Yeah, exactly. Right. There was no new troops. There was nothing. You could see how the game just, went downhill because there was nothing to keep people interested.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think now they understand how powerful new updates are and new content, and especially, cycling through up to new Town Hall levels is always exciting. It keeps people progressing through the game, upgrading their village, right, and unlocking new stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that they recognize that. And I also think, back to my point earlier, in that there's so many different ways to play the game, whether you like Clan Capital, whether you like Builder Base, or you just like the home village, they are different ways that people can play the game. And when you think in recent years, they've totally redesigned the Builder Base. Yes, they still had a couple of troops that are the same and everything like that, but essentially they've completely redesigned the Builder Base. They brought out Clan Capital. It's like 2/3 of Clash of Clans in the last 2 years that they have brought out.
Yeah.
So for me now, I think it's really exciting that, the team had big desires to bring those and big goals. Whereas now that they have the 3 villages, and Darian has talked about cycling through the content of those 3, they can get to actually just bringing content and quality of life changes that we've all been wanting and pushing the game forward, because these big mammoth tasks of overhauling villages are now done. I don't know how deep you want me to get into
No,
question. There's
I think
definitely
that
things
was.
that I think they could do better. I
Give
don't
me
know
the
how.
give me the number one thing, just in your opinion. Now, everybody has their own opinion, but one thing that you would like to see them do, either do better, change, add, whatever it may be. Put you on
I
the
think
spot.
right now, top of
Yeah.
mind. We just had the 11th Clashversary event, and you know, I guess the negative side of focusing on the content. I was just saying how amazing it is that they're focusing on the content. They understand the relevancy of content and updates,
Yep.
but I personally feel like the 11th Clashversary could have been better. It didn't really feel special to me personally. The 10th Clashversary was so big. Maybe that's the problem, right? We
Yeah.
had such a big, amazing event, and we can't expect the 11th Clashversary to be the same as the 10th. But why not make it big? Why not make it a big event? It's the anniversary of the game, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, if the team were to focus on one thing to improve, it would be in between the content, making sure that the events are also times where people could celebrate the game, right?
I love that. I love that, man.
So yeah, that's what I would say, but that's just
Of course.
my opinion from a content side of things. I don't, see the numbers the team
Sure.
sees, and
No, I understand,
everyone's
man.
opinions are different, but
I
that's what I
understand.
would say.
How do you feel about the evolution of content creators in the game? We touched on this a little bit earlier, but is that it's a little bit less of like the general Tonys of the world. Actually, you know what? You were mentioning we were mentioning a little bit about like frustrations and back in the day and taking so long. I remember, I'm sure you remember too, but do you remember Jake from One Hive?
Of course.
So he did in hindsight, like he did. I don't mean to pick on Jake. He's a great guy, but and I really considered him a friend at one point. I haven't talked to him in years and years. But with all that said, like he made his own. Like long story short, is a creator who was unhappy with the game. He found himself making video after video after video, basically complaining about the state of Clash of Clans. This is back in 2016 or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he decided, this already, like he decided to go make his own game, the Clash of Clans Killer. He wanted to make the game that was going to be better than Clash. And it ended up being a massive debacle, and they never even got the game out, for global release. And had a community funded, people upset. I still go and see like some of those YouTube videos, and people are still upset about it. So for me, it wasn't. I'm not trying to again throw Jake under the bus or anything like that, but for me, it was an eye-opening thing to see from beginning to end. Of no, you can't just recreate or kill or beat Clash, even with all the gripes that you have. I ask right now is like, do you think that generally content creators have shifted from that like all negativity mentality that seemed to kind of permeate at least the competitive side of the community back in the day? Do you pick up any, like, are you close to all the creators still, or do you pick up any jealousy or animosity because of your success?
Well, I will say, like, for Jake, first of all, I admired his ambition to do that. I agree with kind of what you said. But I definitely admire his ambition to try and achieve
He
his
could have just
goals.
complained. Yeah.
And he tried to do something about it. And it's a huge mountain, right? I think he did very well with what he did. In terms of Clash of Clans, I do feel the community is in a really good spot. There are, fresh creators coming through. There are, other creators such as myself that continue to improve and push the boundary, if you will. I mean, there's always going to be people that are jealous when they look at numbers and things. I get, not necessarily from other creators, but I definitely get a lot of hateful messages, and that's just how it is as you grow in size. Like, yourself, as you're building a brand, you're going to get that. And I once took a course. You've probably read, I wish I could recall the name of the book actually, from Patrick Hanlon on brand building. It's like the seven.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the book, but anyway, he talks about, like, once you get to a certain size, if you or if you're not getting hateful messages, then you're actually not you haven't made it to a certain degree, because you think about like Apple and Android. Are either of their products bad? No, but there are people that absolutely despise this product,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
just that's just how it is. So I think there will always be kind of jealousy that comes into play with things. But for any creators that do, have that, I think it's very important to, again, just focus on your own
yeah,
content, because it's very easy to compare with other people. And whether you say that things are luck or this or that, there's 9 years of grind
yeah,
behind that. And
yeah.
until you've done that and tried to improve your content every step of the way, then it's not going to help you to compare. So I think there will always be that. All in all, in terms of Clash of Clans, I think the community's in a fantastic spot. I think that's different for Royale
Yeah, that was
right
my
now.
follow up, man. I
Um,
gotta selfishly ask
but
you
I think
about.
Clash of
Yeah,
Clans is in a fantastic space. All the creators are, we all. We should really talk more, but that's the nature of content, I guess,
sure,
right? Like,
sure,
all
sure.
of us get along when it's when there's events go on, like we all as if we're all just good buddies,
We
but
don't
we
miss
don't
a beat.
really
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah,
much
yeah.
behind the scenes because we're all just so busy. And I understand how busy everyone else's lives are because they
Same.
do the same thing as me, right? So I don't want to go messaging people and like. And then there's also times when someone messages me and I'll read a message on a morning and then I'll respond later and forget. And then, there's just this. Anyway, I don't want to
I
go off tangent
understand.
and things, but
No,
yeah,
I
I
understand.
think
Even
Clash of
me asking
Clans
you to come
community is in a
on,
great spot.
even me asking you to come on for this chat, it just there was a little hesitation. Like crap, like it's a big ask to take an hour out of somebody's morning or afternoon. When we're all as busy as we are. But then I never regret them. I always think to myself at the end of these conversations that we should do them more often. Uh,
Definitely think something I could be better with.
well, likewise. Clash Royale, man. I got to ask from afar, how do you see the Clash Royale community? Moreover, like, obviously there's a lot of frustration and creators are a lot of creators, even myself included. This is why I stepped away from covering Clash Royales because it's like so much negativity that you're put in this position of like, am I going to be negative all the time in my content as well?
Mm.
I know you have thoughts on that because I've heard you mention it before. I don't know, like you want to just extrapolate a little bit on like, you know, being a creator in a negative community and in Clash Royale in general.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really play Royale, not really engage in the community, so I can't, speak as if
Sure,
know in depth
this
or
is what needs
anything.
to
So
change. Yeah, yeah.
I totally understand their frustration. I think again, from an outside perspective looking in, I think some of the decisions have been like less than ideal. I would, if that was Clash of Clans making some decisions, I would certainly be giving feedback to Super Saiyan. And I do, by the way, I give feedback all of the time to the Clash team. I just think a lot of the time there's a time and a place to give feedback, and it's rare that I give feedback via a public video. Sometimes I've done that, not, but I think for the most part, it's for me personally, it's more what's the right word I'm trying to search for here? It's it's
Constructive.
better to just
Yeah,
have those.
yeah,
It's more productive. Yeah, that
yeah,
is the word I'm searching for. It's more productive to just talk to Supercell behind the scenes and actually talk to them. Like, what? Okay, this is my feeling. What why were those decisions made? Because you don't always understand, just like I was saying earlier with the 11th Clash anniversary stuff, right? Like, I don't understand what it is they're doing, why the decisions are. So just having those discussions, it's important to give that feedback. And I think your video with Molt, I was just saying earlier that he was talking into this, that you should give that feedback to the team because you're doing a disservice to the game almost if you're not. So, but a lot of the time I felt like it's been more productive to achieve the end goal of actually making a change by talking to them, one to
yeah.
one. So it's very tricky to comment on a community I'm not in, but also I understand the frustration. I think a lot of content creators, and this is not a Royale specific thing. I think on YouTube and in the media, right? It's really it's not always the best thing that negativity sells. And I always try and have that positive side of things on my content, because that's why I got into content, right? I
Yeah.
want to bring joy in
Same.
the world. I
Same.
want
Yeah.
to inspire people. I'm not going to do that by just constantly, you know, being negative about a game that I play for fun. Um, so it's kind of like a YouTube wide thing that you always, let's say a certain product like this camera. I'm going to buy a new camera. I type that in, and the first video that'll pop up is like 5 reasons not to buy this camera. And I'm like, wow, So it's a little bit unfortunate, I would say, that, you know, creators get stuck in this cycle of like, it's working, and they constantly just driving negativity for the clicks. Um, because I think sometimes you do have to look back and think about what is that actually bringing. In my opinion, I don't think you would foster a community long term by just being negative all of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but again, like, it's understandable. And if you're a small creator and like your goal is to go full time in content creation, and this is working and that's going to help you to achieve that, then it's really hard for that creator to like see the bigger picture, if you will, when that is their goal. They're just driving towards it, then sure, But
Yeah.
I think at some stage you have to, and I do this often. I take a look back at my content from like a channel wide perspective of like, okay, what type of videos am I doing? What are my goals? What am I actually achieving here? And if you're just, you know, dumping on the game for the sake of that, then is that actually going to help when ultimately people play the game to enjoy the game? So I guess I would just encourage people to think about their messaging, like overall, that they're bringing. And it's fine to share frustration and put that out with with the community. But once you're doing that for clicks and there's no, actual purpose or goal behind it, I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to help you long term.
Yeah,
But
and honestly, there's like candidly, that's kind of where I found myself. I think subconsciously, I wasn't thinking, "Oh, I'll get a lot of clicks if I do talk about negativity," but people enjoyed me talking about negativity, or at least it felt that way, you know. But it's to your point of wanting to be. That's not who I want to be. That's what I said in my
mm,
video that I released talking about why I'm not covering Clash Royale on a regular basis. I might have a guest, from time to time. I think I'm talking to OJ soon, and I'm sure we'll cover Clash Royale, but it's like that's not the legacy, not to be, I'll sound all weird about it, but like I don't want for eternity on, or at least as long as humanity, right? I don't want there to be videos of me after I'm gone for my kids to look back to where I'm just like, this game sucks, and that's what I did. That's what I was about in life, like I don't know. Maybe it's the perspective of being a dad and, being a little bit older in the scene, but I
maybe.
completely agree, man. I completely agree. I want to, before I selfishly ask you a little quick Clash of Clans strategy question or two, I want to ask you one more question on YouTube, and that is, going kind of back to your growth and stuff like that, because I'm genuinely curious. Do you think that it was like, what is the most valuable thing that you added that helped you really take off on your channel in terms of maybe a strategic sense? Obviously, you got better at a lot of things, simultaneously. But was it, from my view, and or maybe something I don't mention here, but you became a lot better at concisely telling a story and then weaving that narrative throughout the video, maybe cutting a lot of like the fluff a little bit. Uh,
Hmm.
and also maybe like ideating your video topics. Like it seems like you got a lot more strategic in what you're gonna what the next video you're gonna make or whatever. So maybe speak a little bit on what do you attribute it to, this massive surge of appeal and views.
Yeah, I will answer that. I do want to just say, because I think sometimes when you're just, spitting out information, you can, in hindsight, have, other things to say. I do want to say that if any creators do listen to my response that I did just give in terms of the negativity side of things, I don't want to discourage people from like creating content and things like that. And it's fine to bring that type of content, but what I would say is just have a little bit of a think about the message that you are giving to viewers in that video. Like, even if it is a negative video and you are sharing that frustration, just think about the overall messaging that you are giving, whether, you know, subliminally across your content, you realize it or not. You do want to be trying to just be a little bit more responsible, I guess, as an influencer, in in, you know, the messaging that you're giving. So I don't want to discourage people, but I guess just kind of thinking about that side of things. But back to your question, I do think it was a lot of things. For me personally, I think probably when the strategy side of things, you know, and everyone else or the pro players were bringing content, that is a really valuable lesson in just being objective with yourself. Like, what are you good at? What are you bringing to people? And, you know, what can you do that no one else does? And you always hear those cliche answers of like, oh, you know, be yourself and everyone tells things differently. But there is also that certain level of value. Like, what value are you going to bring that no one else is going to bring?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think having an objective look at myself as to what I could bring. And I, just to kind of give you a little bit of context, I did feel like my camera presence and my articulation skills were very good in relation to some of the pros who were just, you know, head down playing the
Sure.
game.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how are they actually connecting with the viewer versus, you know, me, who can have a little bit more of a chat with people? And also, I could break that down to a casual player a little bit easier. So
Yeah.
they were just kind of two examples, I guess, that I kind of drew that I felt I could do better. So I would say that was a big moment in, okay, I have to shift my content in this direction. And then there was a lot of kind of testing and analyzing. And that's one thing that, you know, YouTube data, you get so much information from YouTube data. But I think when you're starting out, yes, it's important to look at data, but I think you can also get too obsessed with the data when you're starting out, your data might not be as meaningful as what you think. If you're still kind of figuring out content, your
Yeah.
data is going to be all over the place. And then like likewise to the other end of the spectrum, like you go through this whole learning curve, and then, you know, where I'm at, yes, I still use YouTube data, but then you realize how like biased the YouTube data can be in a certain sense, and how a lot of it can be tricky to actually use
How bias? Give me an
properly.
example. Yeah.
Well, the YouTube data that you see is only from people that have actually clicked your video to start out, right? So you look at the retention graph, but you don't get to see any data from anyone that saw your video and scrolled past it. So, you know, instantly you have people that have clicked your video, and like your retention is based on that. Then your retention graphs are, we don't get to see who that retention graph represents. Like YouTube does, I've given this feedback to YouTube as well, but like they don't even give us demographics on where people live. Never mind, are they a new viewer? Are they a returning viewer? A subscriber? A non-subscriber? Like there's so many factors that go into your retention graphs that like the data is just all mushed together, and then you're left thinking, well, you know, this person is so much different to this person, and it's really hard to then make specific decisions, if you will.
Sure.
You are just always guessing. And I'm not saying you're not
Yeah.
can't use the data, absolutely. But like the higher level you get, you then realize that you kind of have to take the data with a pinch of salt as well. You still use it,
Yeah.
but you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and you have to clump lots of data together to get anything meaningful. You can't just look at one retention graph and be like,
Yeah.
oh, yep, you know, you got to clump so much together. And it's things that you're learning along the way that then become more meaningful. So anyway, that's
No, I think that's
like,
it's a great answer. It's a great answer. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, ultimately, you know, you just, especially as a new creator, you have the luxury of being able to experiment and try new stuff all the time, right? Because you
yeah,
don't feel like you have this massive boat that you have to keep afloat and to keep everybody happy. You can kind of mess around and just see what people like. And ultimately the data, the most important data is views to some extent. You know, if you make
the most, yeah,
you know, like if people are watching, basically if people are watching, then, you know, and then consistently watching, then you know that you're doing something right, you know. And if
the
some of
number
your
one
content,
metric is
yeah,
always views,
yeah,
because, you know, you can look at click-through rate, impressions, all of these different things, but ultimately those are all so up and down based on how good a video is. And you don't, like I said, you don't get to see like let's say just for a new creator, I know this was not necessarily the direction we were going, but
No,
let's
it's
kind of go
great.
there
This is
because
great. Yeah.
I could sit and chat about YouTube all day. But so let's
Same.
give you an example of like people get really honed in on click-through rate as a new beginner, right? And I'm not saying like it's not important. You do have to look at those, but you have to look deeper, understand the data, and then also understand its limitations. So your click-through rate, first of all, if you look at your overall, like that one number it gives you, that is so tricky to
It is.
understand like how
Because a
meaningful
high
that is.
CTR might mean nothing, or a low CTR.
Exactly,
You know?
because you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to, first of all, you have to look at where is the data, where is that data coming from? Like, is it coming from browse, the home feed? Is it coming from suggested? Is it coming from your channel page? If someone goes to your channel page, they have a much higher likelihood of clicking your video than if they say it on the homepage. YouTube search, like external. There's so many like ways that people can find your videos that then impact your retention and like sticking specifically with click-through rate. But even once you've drilled it down to a specific traffic source, let's say the homepage, right? So you look at browse feature, and browse is the homepage and the subscription feed. So you have to kind of go into browse to see which is which, because the
Yep.
subscription feed is going to have a higher CTR than your homepage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even let's say you factor it all the way down to this specific traffic source of homepage, we then go to the point that I was making earlier in that, well, is that someone that knows you? If I've had someone that's been watching my channel for 2 years, they are way more likely to click that video than a new viewer. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at your click-through rate from the home feed, you don't get to see that data,
Yeah.
and someone that clicks your video for the first time, that is a way better metric to understand why they clicked that video than someone that, watches every one of your
Yeah.
videos. But
Yeah.
you can't distinguish that from the data. And, if your video is served out to your current community, you get a high CTR, and then it goes out to a kind of a secondary community
It's
and they
gonna
don't
go.
really
Yeah.
respond. It doesn't impact your CTR that much because YouTube then just stops serving it out to that other community,
Sure.
right? Like
Sure.
the people
Yeah.
that don't watch
Yeah.
your content. So your CTR is still pretty high.
Yeah.
But if it gets served out to those other viewers and they do click it and YouTube continues to serve it out, that click-through rate, even though it's high in perspective for a new viewer, will be lower than your like hardcore audience. So your click-through
Just
rate's going to come down,
yeah.
even though that's way better for you. And it's like
That's the
trying to
number
explain
one.
that to a new creator is
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's probably one of the number one things that you hit on that newer creators come to me about is like, dude, why are my views not blowing up? Look at my CTR, it's 20% or something like that, like massive, And it goes to all the points you were just saying is because that this data doesn't mean anything in and of itself, and I think that's the most important takeaway there. I did want to rewind a little bit and ask you on how you come up with your next video, Judo. Like, are you one of those guys that puts a lot of thought into like, okay, what is
oh
my
yeah,
next video going to be? How am I going to title it? How am I going to what's the thumbnail going to look like? How do I tell this story? What is your process?
that is the main thing.
Yeah.
That is where most work goes, right? I don't get to play Clash of Clans very often because most of my work is pre-production and then like post. The actual recording of a video is, pretty small in comparison to everything else. So like pre-production, if you're talking about ideation specifically, like I have a huge list of ideas that I'm constantly kind of evaluating and adding to. And I think you should, even if an idea is not necessarily within your reach right now, you should still write it down because you might be able to do that in the future. So for me, to keep it short, I basically select what I think is the absolute best video that I can make right now that is feasible to me in my position. Because there
Yep.
are some video ideas that I have that, like right now, I like can't really make, like for a couple of different reasons, right? But I've got those ideas. They will always be in my mind. And maybe one day I can execute on that properly. But I think you have to be realistic of what is the best video you can make that is realistic for you to make and execute well as well. So
Yeah, totally empathize with that response, and I feel somewhat the same way. I feel like I'm way more limited than you though. Does how long does it take to make one video on average on your channel? You know, like how many days do you plan out on average? I know it's probably differs based on the
it's very
yeah.
hard to give a specific number because like a lot of my videos have had, you could say hours and hours and hours in the ideation phase in terms of actually select, but like once I, because I don't also select that idea until I've got a lot of video ideas that I'm still kind of finding out, like you said, like, okay, what's the best narrative here? And even if you can come up with a decent narrative, like what is the best way to tell that narrative?
Yeah.
What is the actual purpose of the video? Like I was saying before, like what is the message for somebody that's watching? Like what do I want someone to take away from this video? It's
Yeah.
not even the fact of, YouTube is obviously everyone talks about like retention, all of that kind of stuff, but what is the purpose of someone watching your video? What are
Yeah.
they going to leave this video? And you know, perhaps even how is it going to actually improve them as a person, maybe? Those are like all things that you're considering. So there's, until I even have like a decent narrative and everything in mind, I wouldn't even select the idea.
Gotcha.
And then from there's a lot of pre-production and kind of, setting it up. And like I said, I've already kind of got the storyline and everything involved beforehand. Then I would be drilling through my intro a little bit more specific. Um, and all of these ideas, like these are things that you'll hear if you've watched any type of YouTube advice content.
Yeah.
People always say, Mr. Beast, I think everyone watches the
Yeah.
Mr. Beast interviews,
Sure.
right? Like he always says, you've got to have your title and thumbnail in mind beforehand. And, so that all that type of stuff is done. But once I select the idea, then I'm really honing in on what is the opening 30 seconds, minute, 3 minutes, like what does that look like? And you can be a lot more, um not like scripted, but you can be a lot more uh struggling to come up with my words today, Ash. You
Intentional?
can
I
be,
don't know what.
yeah,
Yeah.
intentional. That's a good way to put it. You can
Thanks,
be a lot more
son.
intentional, like with your opening segments, but then there's certain videos where you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you then go with the flow in terms of the recording, but maybe you can plan out, right? Like maybe there's a certain challenge you're undertaking. Well, it's easy to then plan, like, okay, what does it look like if I do this challenge? What does it look like if I fail? Like what happens if I fail the challenge at some point? So you, even though you clearly want to be authentic in your videos and, you know, like go with the flow in terms of content, you can still kind of plan out like
Map them
what
out.
happens
Yeah.
if this scenario
Yeah.
happens? Like where do I go? And then you're not just making stuff up on the spot
Yeah.
because you can be a bit more intentional with things. So that's where a lot of kind of energy goes in pre-production, I would say.
Do you,
Then like post-production is obviously a whole different ballgame, but I know you were talking about
well, and
ideation and that sort of
do
stuff.
I imagine you script like the beginning of your intros and then you kind of just take it from there. So depending on the type of video, obviously.
Yeah, it depends on the type of videos.
Yeah.
Back to your question, because I went on a right tangent there, didn't I? So there's like all
It's
of
all good,
that side
man.
of
It's
things is
gold.
hard
Yeah.
to quantify. It depends. It really depends on the video. It depends on like
How
how
about one of these?
complex
How
it
about one
is.
of these 3 minute, two
I
million
would
view how to be Christmas
Oh,
challenge
so
videos?
those
Yeah.
ones are kind of different. So those ones
Yeah.
are maybe not a good example, but let me give
They're
you.
not a good
So those
example, but
ones
they do
probably
pop off,
take.
man. Yeah.
Oh, they do, but
Yeah.
they're like guides for people following along. So
Yeah.
it depends on the complexity of the challenge.
Yeah.
I Some of those challenges I have put like 15 hours into figuring out a method that I feel is like the best.
Yeah.
Nowadays they tend not to, like every once in a while they throw a curveball challenge, but I feel like they've got a bit more manageable recently where
Okay.
it's a couple of hours to figure out a method. You're kind of constantly reiterating like what's best here for people to follow along. And then when I actually go to record the challenge, sometimes that can be different because I need to be able to attack and articulate what I'm doing at the same time. So sometimes my method has to change so that I can actually give that information in
You
real
never
time.
fake battle. You never fake it. I think back in the day I used to fake battle sometimes. I think if I were you, I would do it. Like I would record exactly what I wanted, and then I would probably script over. But maybe that's too difficult too. you know?
Well, it
That's,
depends, but it depends on you as a creator, right? There's no right
yeah,
and wrong way to do things to start out. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
everyone does things differently. For me personally,
It's all live.
I find that if I'm explaining it in real time, because like my explanation could then get, because I tried it that way a couple of times. I think that's important as a creator to experiment and really figure out what's going to work for you,
Yeah,
because what
yeah,
works for one person is not going to work for everybody. So you have to experiment, and that's one thing. Like on top of all of this, you should always be experimenting, um,
hmm,
using the data to help you with that. But anyway, I did try it that way, and for me personally, I found that I would sometimes get behind the gameplay and like I'm still talking about the previous thing when the next thing is happening.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
the viewer is listening to me talk about one thing, and then they're all, because they're trying to copy, right? Like they're already behind my gameplay. So I found for me personally, just explaining it in real time is way more successful.
yeah, yeah,
That
and
does then mean that I have to nail not just the gameplay, but the articulation. So even once I've got a challenge, it can take me sometimes like 2 hours to get an attack where I've articulated the information good, the gameplay's good, the timing's being correct. So like even those and that's then before like editing, right?
yeah, dude.
Um
Do you do your editing as well? Your own editing?
I do some edits, but not many nowadays. I
Gotcha.
still do some because when it comes to like sneak peek times, those are like, I mean, you know what it's like with
Yeah,
sneak
yeah,
peeks. I'm sure
yeah,
you
yeah,
did them back in the day. Like
yeah.
that's,
Big
yeah,
deal.
you're not
Yeah.
sleeping over
No,
sneak peek times. So
no, no,
I have
no.
to edit some sneak peek videos. So I need
Gotcha.
to firstly be able to do that. Um, be efficient with that. So I'm not like, oh, how do I do that edit again? So I need to be efficient with that. I also, like, in my mind, like to be able to do things that, I don't know, like 10 years down the 5, 10 years down the line, if things did go down south, because you've always got to be realistic. Like I'm confident that I'm the type of person that it wouldn't, but you've always got to be realistic. If it did go back to bare bones and it was just me, I still need to be able to edit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And also I work very closely with my editors. So we jump on calls and we go through the videos intensively, together. So I need to be able to know how to edit to tell them what I want, right? And
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of like the example I always give is if you're at work and your boss doesn't know what you do, it's almost like, wow, they don't respect like what I do. Whereas my editors know that when they do something, I understand how much work goes into what they just did.
yeah.
And I can explain what I would need them to do like a lot easier. We can just have a much easier dialogue when I know what editing looks like as well.
No,
Um, but the challenge levels generally take, good few hours to edit, reviewing. So those can take anywhere from like 8 to 20 hours, depending on the complexity of the challenge. A regular video, I would say probably 20 hours is like the minimum nowadays. And then I would say the average is like 40 to 50.
that
And my
is.
best is probably like, well, my best was 85, but we've got a video coming out where I don't even know. Like we're
Oh
into
man, what
like
is it going to be about? Give us a
150
heads
hours or
up
something.
on this one. We'll definitely tune in,
Oh,
dude.
oof.
Or can you reveal anything about this video?
So
Or
I
when
will
it's
say
coming out? Anything? Give us
I
something,
wanted to
Judo. Yeah.
upgrade, I wanted to update one of my guides, but I didn't want to do that old traditional, like this is what you want to do sort of thing. So I did it myself and used myself as the subject matter across the entire thing. Um, so yeah, it was kind of like four
Okay.
months in recording, I'd say.
Wow, dude. Oh man, the dedication to the craft is insane. I never put anywhere near that time ever, ever, ever into a video, but it's just like the admiration that I have for people like yourself who do is just it's unbelievable, man. Absolutely, absolutely love it, man. I'm looking forward to that video. I had a question in my mind and I'm spacing it out, so I guess I will jump to my chess thing, right? So
Yes,
I
the
have
whole reason we jumped on.
I know we were gonna make this call initially just about this event, but then I thought there's too many things I wanted to ask you about. Clearly, and thank you again for being so generous of your time. But before we wrap,
Oh, of course, this is great, man.
I gotta tell you, man. We're actually, you know what? I remember what I was gonna ask you real quick. It was actually about money, Judo. You mentioned that you might just in your last the question you or your response, you said that you don't know if you're always going to have an editor. You might need to learn, but then also that same mentality can be transcribed to uh you might not always be on top. You might not always be pulling millions of views every day. uh the financial side, to whatever extent you're comfortable, do you feel right now as a creator that you absolutely have to capitalize? Because like an athlete, it could be a small window. I feel like sometimes people are just pulling millions of views, and I could name names, but we all know the names, even in our ecosystems. And things inevitably go down eventually for most creators out there. I don't know, something tells me I don't see that happening for you for whatever reason, but we always feel that way when we're on top. So how do you
Mm.
feel as a creator? How do you feel about the creator economy? And do you feel any pressure to like take extra deals, or what advice would you give to maybe an emerging creator in that regard?
I think my answer now is a lot different than even just a couple of years ago. So when I went full time as a creator, which was just over 3 years ago now, because it was when my little boy was born,
Hmm.
my answer then would have absolutely been, I need to, much like an athlete, I need to make this work right now, and for the longevity of my family and everything like that. And to a degree, there is still, that thought that, when I worked in the hospital, it was pretty clear that you could do this right up until retirement, right? Whereas even 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 if you could do this up to retirement, could I perform on this level up to retirement? Like the
Mm,
hours that I work is pretty extent. Like I work a lot more hours than I did in the hospital, and
yeah,
sometimes not really the best for my health.
yeah,
I can definitely say that. I think I'm very good, by the way, as a creator at like work-life balance and kind of the health side of things. But I think it comes with the nature of just being so driven that you will overwork yourself, and it's sometimes hard not to do that when there's deadlines and things. Like right now is is very busy in itself. Um, but yeah, a couple of years ago, I definitely thought that. Now, with my deeper understanding of content, YouTube,
yep,
like just the whole picture, I think there is still an element of luck involved. I would be, lying if I said there wasn't, because you are not in control of everything, right? So there is still an element of luck, but it is I understand now how, um, how deliberate you can be with your content to, you know, make a good piece of content that people will enjoy at the end of the day. So I have a lot more longevity in that regard, that I feel assured that I could make it work. Even if Clash of Clans like died tomorrow, with the knowledge I have, I could pivot to something else and make it work. Like I'm
yeah.
will be confident enough in saying that I could make another channel work. In the future, what would that look like? Like who knows? I would love to get into consulting and things one day, because I do feel that I have a lot of experiences that I've
Oh yeah, no
kind of
doubt.
been through the natural cycle of a creator.
Yeah,
So maybe that's how things look. But either way, I'm confident that even if like my channel, Clash died tomorrow, like the amount of skills you need as a creator, like even an editor, right? Like I could
yeah,
work as an editor for sure. I can
yeah,
edit, no problem. So I could just bounce off into different directions. So
sure.
I don't feel that as much now. There is still an element of that for sure. Because am I going to be am I going to be able to connect with someone to the same level and work to the same degree as I do now in 15 years' time?
Yeah,
Probably not.
yeah,
So there is still an element of that, but I wouldn't like accept deals for the sake of it. Like that's absolutely not uh within my mentality. I obviously do sponsorship deals through AMG, as as clearly because there's a lot of expenses in content creation once you start getting to a high level. Like I already mentioned, like my editors, and that's only one side of things, right? Like that is literally just two people that I pay, and their wages aren't cheap, right? So like you've got those to factor in, then you've got so much more that comes into play through consult, because I take consultancy. I pay other YouTube consultants all of the time for, you know, advice and just other perspectives. If you think you're like this one ultimate being that has all the answers and everything like that, then that is going to not end well for you. So you always want to be getting advice from others, taking inspiration from them as well. So there's a lot of expenses go involved with things. So that's a massive reason for taking sponsorships. But I would absolutely not say yes to everything and feel like I had to. And on the same token, I also, the content that I bring has a purpose behind it as well. Like there's certain videos, if I wanted to go clickbaiting, like why Clash of Clans is the worst game, and like all of this type of stuff, like is that going to end well for me? Like in the long term?
Yeah.
No. Like short term, you could, you know, do that for some clicks, but it's not.
I feel compelled to chime in too. Is like it's not that it's not going to work out for you because Supercell's going to get mad and make you stop playing Clash of Clans. It's not going to work out for you because you're going to be disenfranchising your audience who comes to enjoy playing a game with you, you know, over time,
Exactly.
you know.
Yes, so I don't feel compelled to do any of that type of stuff. But yeah,
I will say that you mentioned, like, not to be self-serving here, but you're with our talent agency, AMG. You've been with us for years and years. I think that is Joey, your talent manager.
Yes.
But love Joey, and I just remember, I know that like it just goes to you as a person. It goes to everything that we've been talking about this entire time. But even when you do like an integration, it's way above and beyond what like 99% of talent would ever do, you know? So like you even put your heart and soul, like for a PUBG Mobile, like paid ad, you like jumped out of a helicopter or something.
Oh, it was great.
But you weren't asked.
I tricked you then.
You tricked me.
Actually, it was cool though.
But all what I'm saying is like, no one puts that kind of effort into an ad. Like not many people, let me put, you know,
I will expand on that a little bit just because of like, we're all in the creator space, right? Like I honestly think that if we want this industry to grow, like it's always, you know, YouTube and content creation is always compared to like mainstream media and stuff, right? But if we really want YouTube to grow and open up more opportunities for more creators, then we do have to actually deliver for the clients and things, right? Like, because one, at the end of the day, the audience doesn't want to watch a boring ad that you've put nothing into, that you clearly don't care about. But on the other token, you know, to get paid as a creator, the client wants a certain level of quality back. And I think we should be putting the most we can into ads, and we should be putting those ads in good content to actually elevate the industry and create new opportunities for more creators. So to give people perspective on the PUBG mobile thing, like I was asked to create a PUBG mobile ad, and I thought about how could I create this in the most engaging way and like blow out their expectations. So I pretended that I had, you know, just dropped out of the plane sort of thing, and I jumped onto the beach, like face planted into the sand. And that was the opening part of the ad to get people's attention. Like I jumped out of the plane, face planted the sand, and then I played or acted out a game of PUBG whilst, you know, delivering the talking points sort of thing. And it was really cool. It was
really cool. And like, no one asked you to do that. No one asked you to, you just did it. And that's it. Man, it's a brilliant point, Judo. It's a brilliant point. Is that like I just mentioned earlier, kind of bragging about that these creators in mobile and in gaming in general, they can get the same amount, more views than primetime TV, you know? But where we're lacking is absolutely the quality of the marketing service that we provide. So like people like you doing things like that for PUBG, I mean, it definitely elevates everybody. I think it's a great point that not many people make.
Yeah, for sure. Because, you know, one, it is going to help me, right? Like as I go through this industry and through this career, you know, if we're elevating the industry as we go, then it's going to help me, but it's going to help others that want to be creators as well. And I think we should all be doing better with our sponsored content.
Indeed. Agreed. Hey, before I let you go, finally, Chess Clash. So I'm doing this thing with all these chess people. Ludwig's hosting it. A lot
I'm
of big
jealous.
names. It's you were, yeah. I mean, I guess we can say this because we helped. We brought you the opportunity or whatever.
Yeah, I was asked to
But
go.
you were asked to go. You couldn't do it because of scheduling. So they got the 15th best option here in CWA.
No.
Now we were actually gonna go. Like we were both gonna go, but long story short is we're playing chess, Clash Royale, and Clash of Clans. So I'm gonna have a chess. I'm gonna have a chess expert on the channel. Anna
Okay.
Cramling is gonna be my.
Ooh.
She's an awesome content creator. I just got into her. I wasn't familiar with a lot of chess creators. I was familiar with Gotham Chess, but TLDR is she's gonna come on the channel, teach me some chess, which is gonna be great. And I'm kind of nervous about chess, man. Like I know how to play chess, but I'm not like. I don't know many opening strategies and stuff like that. I can't do a Queen's Gambit for you. But with all that said, I also am like really embarrassed at how much I haven't played Clash of Clans for the last 5 years either. I'm Town
It's
Hall
in the
12.
name, right? You've got a
I
certain
know,
level.
I know. Like Clash Royale, we can handle, but Clash of Clans, I need a crash course, man. I'm not asking you to give me the whole crash course right now. I'm not even going to log onto my account.
Well, let's
but
see what we can do.
I do need this. I do need you to tell me. What are the best attacks? I'm at Town Hall 12 right now.
Well, I probably need to ask you
Yeah.
some questions. It probably is worth you loading up your account, actually.
You can see my village, man.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it in a long time. First off, let me just ask you, like, generally priorities. Like, I've been playing the last week because I'm trying to get back into it, right? I haven't touched my builder base since I think the week that it was released. Okay, so I have nothing going on over here.
I'm guessing they're not doing builder-based attacks, though, right?
I'm hoping. Yes, they're not. They're not. So I'm good.
We don't
with
have
that.
to worry about that.
I'm good with that. Is this? What is this whole thing? Clan Capital thing? Like, give me the elevator pitch on Clan Capital.
Yeah. So basically, you can envision builder base being very individual. There is not really any social aspects to builder base right now. Home Village is still like your own thing, but you integrate with your clan members, right? Like you do clan wars and everything like that, but you don't actually attack together. You just attack one at a time as a clan. Clan Capital is kind of higher level in that you actually do work together. So all of the upgrades in your village, you actually all contribute in order to upgrade. And then when you do attacks, you're actually all attacking on the same village. So if you ever played Boom Beach Operations, it's a little bit like that.
Okay, that makes sense. That's actually really cool, man. That's really cool.
It is cool. It is cool.
And then we have the raid map. I want to give a massive shout out to my clan, by the way. I'm with Power Bang and his son, Mini Bang, and quite a few other guys. Peyton in the clan. We got a lot of shout outs to our awesome clan. But with all that being said, man, I just joined
Bacon Weather. I remember the video with Bacon Weather.
I'm with Bacon. He's doing well. You know,
That's
it was
awesome.
That's awesome. He had a health scare years ago, and Power Bang had a big fundraiser, and you helped out, and so now it's come full circle, man. I'm glad you noticed that. Cool. So anyway, so here we are, dude. A, what do I focus on? And B, what's the best attacks? I gotta teach a chess master Clash of Clans attacks.
Teach.
I have to tell her what to do.
Get your earpiece in. I'll be on the line.
I know.
So I see E-Dragons cooked up in your
Yes, well, Clash with Eric, shout out, told me, E-Drag, bro, just go E-Drag. So I'm like, okay, E-Drag.
Eric didn't tell you to use witches at Town Hall 12?
Well, he didn't know what Town Hall I was. He didn't know what Town Hall.
Okay, Eric's the witch. Eric is the witch guy.
Okay.
And witches are actually, like super witches specifically, I would say are actually the best strategy at Town Hall 12. So I'm surprised.
Okay.
However,
I think I might need to like go to Town Hall 15 because this is the worst part here is I don't know what they're going to give us to do. It's just attacking a random base basically. So I think we spoke about this a little bit off air, but they might just want to highlight everything new in Clash and just give us a max
I would
base,
imagine they would want to do Town Hall 15. And
so I got to rush.
Unfortunately, Ash, that is the hardest level in the game. I think Town Hall 15, they made a lot of changes, and it's very tricky where the game is right now because the pros are getting so good at the game that Town Hall 15 is kind of getting like too easy for them some would say, but I still think it's too hard for the casual player. So it's really hard for them to get a balance, but Town Hall 15 is tricky. So
okay. Well, I'm gonna
I'd say
rush
it's
to
gonna be
Town Hall
harder than Town Hall
15. Do you
12.
think is that what you would do if you were in my shoes?
I mean, if
I got to,
you,
right? I got to. I have no choice.
I mean, you will be stronger, but it
Yeah.
depends on what they want you to do. Because ultimately, if you get a Town Hall 15, you upgrade your laboratory. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Upgrade the lab to the top level. Then you can use a power potion, and you would have all of the troops at maximum level at that point. Your heroes, you
okay.
can only boost them with a hero potion 5 levels. So I would still do that, but your heroes, you're not going to get to maximum level unless I actually did a video buying every hero to maximum level, Ash, and it is
expensive.
Yeah, it actually. Do you want to have a guess?
Every hero from 0 to max. What is max level
0
nowadays?
to max.
Back in my day, it was 40, bro.
I did it to level 85. They are now level 90, but like, so it would have been a little bit higher, a little bit more, but it was like 5,500. So I would not be doing that.
Okay, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna.
I did have a sponsor lined up for that one, by the way.
Hey, are like okay? So let's talk about. I'm gonna gem and rush all the way to Town Hall 15. I'm gonna upgrade my lab.
Lab is important.
I don't even. This is the most embarrassing thing I'm gonna say, but like I just haven't played in a long time. I only have 3 heroes. How many are there right now?
So there's 4. When you
the Royal
upgrade,
whatever the heck.
Yeah, when you get to Town Hall 13, you will get the Royal Champion.
Okay. Is she good?
She is very good.
Okay, cool.
Because she is defense targeting. So a lot of the time you can use her like to run the back end of the base, or at least she can clear some defenses to start with. So let's say there's an air defense on the side of the base. You could easily just clear one of those to help your E-Dragons, right? So I will say I have a video. I don't know when this one goes live.
It might be today or tomorrow. I'm just gonna throw it up, man. Yeah.
Well, so tomorrow I have a video going live where I train OJ and Kairos in Clash of Clans ahead of the Galaxy Battles Superverse event.
Okay, that's good.
At the end of the video, they both do E-Dragon Town Hall 15 attacks. I would definitely watch that.
Okay.
OJ plays Clash of Clans, so he was a little bit more like specific.
Yep.
But in terms of Kairos's attack, he like spoiler alert for anyone going to watch the video, he got a 2-star at Town Hall 15 with a relatively straightforward E-Dragon attack. Lightning spelled 2 air defense out of the way, spread his E-Dragons, sent the heroes through, he got a 2-star. Okay. That's what I would be going for.
Okay.
Because I think 3 stars will be very tricky for you if you're at Town Hall 15, especially with lower level heroes.
Yeah.
So I would rush to Town Hall 15, gem your laboratory to maxed so that when you use a power potion, you have access to max level troops. You do want to make sure that if you don't have clanmates necessarily, if you do just a couple of raid weekend attacks that you have going on there that you asked me in the clan capital, you'll be able to reinforce your own clan castle troops. So for an Electro Dragon attack, I would take like the Stone Slammer, maybe some balloons, rocket balloons. It depends on the base a little bit.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Maybe even just another E-Dragon in there,
I don't even know what half this stuff is. A rocket balloon, a stone smasher. My God, man. My God. Are there queen walks?
I'm trying to give you a 5-minute rundown.
Is there a go wipe?
Go wipe. Watch the video with Kairos. He did use go wipe, but I wouldn't recommend it at Town Hall 15.
I'm not going to do it.
But
should I mean, this is maybe a dumb question, maybe a great question, but should I start with an old school queen walk like we always did back in the day to make a funnel?
I would definitely not do a queen walk.
Okay.
It's so if you're playing Town Hall 15, the best advice I could probably get if you do want to use E-Dragons, because they are pretty powerful at Town Hall 15. The Super Witch thing I was saying, definitely don't do that at Town Hall 15. So I would probably do something like what Kairos did in the video so I'll be sure to send you the link. I would use your heroes either side to funnel like for your E-Dragons, send them in towards the Town Hall, and then if the Town Hall is in the middle, use a battle blimp. If the Town Hall is closer to where you're sending the E-Drags, use the Stone Slammer. And I would use lightning spells for the air defense. It's not the most like effective when you're talking about if you play every day, but it's really easy to pick up if you don't
Yeah,
really play the game,
that's
right?
what
Which
I
is
need.
what you
That's what
want.
I need. That's exactly
So-
what I want, man. That's exactly what I want. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna link for all my viewers that video, right, where you train Kairos and
It's
OJ,
a
and
fun
I'm gonna
video.
copy
We put a
that
lot of work
attack.
into it.
Basically, I'm gonna copy that. But what if they throw me a curveball and they say, "Okay, guys, now one has to be a ground attack." What if they do something like that, and then I'm screwed and I have no idea what I'm doing? What would be my best bet for a ground attack in terms of simplicity to execute?
Okay. In terms of simplicity, I would go with probably either the Super Bowlers or the Electro Titans. I would say the Super Bowlers, actually. I mean, you know the bowlers, right?
I know a
They
bowler,
were
yes, I
around,
know a
like, yeah.
bowler. Yep.
You actually had a video that got like 2 million views doing the mass bowler 3-star attack. I remember
Mass
that.
bowler, yeah. I think I had a mass Valkyrie as well. That was it's weird. Sometimes it's weird. Like your most brainless, stupid content like takes off. Especially back in the day, it was like, here's 31 Valkyries. Okay,
My
millions.
100 subscriber special was a mass goblin attacking Clan Wars.
Anyway, so okay,
But
super
yeah,
bowlers.
I would probably do Super Bowlers.
I'm assuming I don't have them yet. I need it. It's the Dark Barracks. Is that what it is?
No, so
Oh.
when you'll be doing friendly attacks, so you probably could use them, but over to the top left side of the base, if you
Yeah.
kind of
Is it this
scroll
thing
over,
over
do you know
here?
where the trader is? Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
sauna. Yeah. You can boost troops, so you don't have,
Oh.
you actually do have the Super Bowlers there.
No
So when you
big
click
deal.
that, it will
Yeah.
cost you Dark Elixir. You can
Okay.
obviously practice with that. If it's a friendly battle, you'll be able to just use them either way. Once you use the power potion, Town Hall 15, they'll be maximum level as well.
Okay.
Depends how
Okay.
tricky you want to get, because really I'd say the easiest way, even though it does take a little bit of training, we might have to do this off camera, is to ward and walk one side of the base, flame flinger the other, send the Super Bowlers in the middle.
Okay. So create the Super Bowler funnel, get them in there, and like, what do you use? Earthquake, jump, rage. What do you use nowadays, spell wise, on those bad boys? Heal.
So I would use
Freeze?
Super Wall Breakers for the initial layers, for like the initial 2 layers, jump spells from there, and rage spells. And you could take some freeze spells as well.
Okay, and I can
Should be
all these.
familiar with all
I'll
of
practice
those.
the heck out of this too before I do. I'm not going to just run it the first time the day of. But all right, man. Well, hey, do you have any before I let you go? I really appreciate the catch up here. Do you have any recommendations on or shout outs that you want to give to other creators out there? You know, I know there's so many that you love and watch. I'm sure that you could probably give 100 of them, but like maybe somebody for a strategy that you watch and somebody who's just like a small creator that you watch. Or that you recommend?
Ooh.
Not to put you on the
Wow.
spot too much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for you're talking Clash of Clans specifically?
Yeah, Clash of Clans. So like, let me put it this way. I'll ask even more like precise. Is if I want to master like more niche not niche, but like if I want to master the bowl or the Super Bowler and like break down like all these strategies besides yourself, who do you recommend to watch?
I think in the space right now, in terms of strategy content, the obvious is Itsu is probably the highest, like in terms of deep strategy.
Yep.
But also trying to explain it to like more of simple strategies versus just competition.
Yep.
So he's probably a good one for you to watch in terms of that Super Bowler attack.
Cool.
Because he covers a lot of like Legend League attacks, and his channel is all strategy, right? Like that is what he does every single day.
Perfect.
So he's probably the one to watch in terms of deep strategy.
Perfect, man. Perfect. I will check out Itsu. Obviously, I know Itsu way back in the Dark Looters days. But yeah, man, I'll definitely. I'm gonna brush up a little bit or a lot. And I really appreciate your help, man, and getting some guidance here because I wasn't sure if I should rush and all this other stuff. But I think at least I have a direction now, and I have 2 attacks that I can practice. So, Judo, you've been so generous with your time, basically taking up a couple hours of your day. I want to thank you so much again for coming on. It's been much too long, and it's been such a great chatting with you, man.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me, and it's been great catching up too. We'll definitely now that your channel's going seemingly more in this direction, we'll have
Yeah,
to do it
yeah.
again sometime for sure.
I would absolutely love to, man. I can't wait to do events with you and have more collabs in the future. Guys, I'll have all Judo's information linked for you, obviously from social media to his channel to all the videos that we mentioned in today's video. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.